Welcome to the Making Pittsburgh Healthy podcast. You'll hear from the most powerful people in the health industry. The advice, inspiration, and application will rock your world. Let's create the healthiest city in America, naturally.
All right. Hey, welcome to the show. We have Kevin Burciaga on the line. He is the creator of Empowered Eating System. He has suffered with multiple eating disorders since his 20s. And now he teaches this method of empowered eating system to students, young professionals, athletes, and men to help them eat right, anytime, anywhere. He is a physical therapist and a big-time YouTuber. Kevin, welcome to the show. And if you could, just tell us a little bit about yourself, married, kids, what do you like to do for fun, and what gets you up in the morning?
Mm-hmm. Like you said, I'm a physical therapist. Right now I live in Modesto, California. So that's almond country, right in the middle. And no wife, no kids, no anchors, so I'm free and mobile. And what gets me up in the morning? Who am I going to meet and what am I going to learn? That's what gets me up in the morning.
I love it. And I'm really excited to hear about your story of eating disorders. We work a lot with health, being a chiropractor, and we're always trying to help people get healthy. And this is one area I am not aware of. I'm not versed in at all. So I'm real curious. And I would imagine the whole epidemic of our health system, our obesity and overweight issue, this has a lot to do with it. So if you could share with us your story, how did you get to this point you are now?
It started when I was 20. And I got really interested in health and fitness and nutrition. Like a lot of college students, I think I was just confused and I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know my place in the world. Well, whatever. But I got really interested in that and I made modifications to my diet. And not too long after that, just a few months, I had lost 10 or 15 pounds and I wasn't big to begin with. So now I was really skinny. I had very little muscle mass, no testosterone. My health was going down, wasn't getting better. And so this continued, this what I call orthorexia, this really regimented type of eating. This continued for a couple of years. And then eventually I started to chew my food, but I would spit it out because I didn't want to swallow it. So now I had a different problem. And then that progressed to binging, purging, and then binging, fasting, and then just binging without that. I mean, it was just one thing after another for 10 years, and it all started with that one decision when I was 20 years old. So that's a synopsis of 10 years.
What do you think triggered that to start doing that? Just you wanted to just get healthy, but it just took over. I mean, how did it go from that one step leading to such a devastating thing?
Good question. It started with good intentions. It's just the execution was off. And so the original goal was to get healthy. And then somewhere along the line, the goal was to be super lean. And I think it was a combination of several things. It was isolation. Unlike most college students, I didn't have a huge social network. I didn't belong to any fraternities and didn't live on campus. So that was one issue. And then it was confusion. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have any goals. I don't know what I wanted when I was 20 or 21. I didn't write down any goals. I just wanted to get out of school. That's all I knew. And I didn't feel like I was good at anything. And I felt like this was one thing that I could do better than anything else. And so I saw people around me and they were not in great shape and they didn't have great health. And I said, you know what, I can be healthier and fitter than any of them. And that's the one thing I can do better than everybody else. So I think it was just a combination of isolation and insecurity and confusion and immaturity.
That's at that age too. Do you see this prevalent in our society? And what age does this happen? This is new to me.
Yeah. So I don't have exact numbers, but my suspicion is that a lot of these behaviors develop around that time for all of the reasons that I just said. So late teens, early 20s, but those behaviors can persist for many years. So these kind of behaviors start fast and then it takes a long time to get rid of them. Now I try to teach my students, clients, whatever you want to call them, how to do it faster. But to answer your question, it's that age when you're really impressionable and you don't know where you're going and you don't know your identity. So like early 20s, college years, when a lot of these behaviors start.
I would imagine too, just with social media and the amount of posting and text. I mean, I see it all, and I see people glorify themselves, but they don't show the bad side. They show the money they have, the cars they drive, or the cars they rent, and they want to look good, the body they want to have. They show these shots, and it's unrealistic. And I think that's a very impressionable age, going through the teenage years. We want to find our purpose. We want to find love. We want to find what our career is. And I remember at that age, I was in college. I was studying physical education. But man, I was clueless on life. I just didn't. I just kept my head down and went forward. But it was all, life was way out in front of me. I just didn't know what to expect. I would imagine it's getting more serious with social media. Do you see this as being a part, or what would be an identifier for these people out there listening to say, look, I may be heading down this path, or I may be catching this early, or I may be into it. How do they know that this is going to affect them?
So I'll start with the first part there, the social media. So when I started this journey, there were no social media. I think we still had MySpace, if anybody still remembers MySpace, but I wasn't even on MySpace. But we didn't have this flood of videos and images that we have today. That is a recent phenomenon. So my suspicion is that yes, all of these images create this comparison game.
Mm-hmm.
So people are chasing something that maybe they can't have, or maybe even shouldn't have, something that's outside of their potential. It doesn't mean they can't get healthier, but it does create this unhealthy fixation, this unhealthy comparison. So the second part was, how do you identify it? How much time are you spending on social media? So that's a good indicator. What are you looking at, and why are you looking at it? What do you really desire? I think a lot of times we think we know what we want and we don't. So in my case, I thought I just wanted to be healthy. And I hear that a lot. I just wanted to be healthy. And then it turns into something else. And then I started chasing a really lean body. I started chasing a number on the scale. And so I lost focus. I forgot what it was that I really wanted. So if I had just focused on eating right and being healthy, I would have never developed any of these eating disorders.
Are there different versions of eating disorders where you were doing it to get healthy, which is good, very good intent, but then it just became extreme? Are there different versions to this? Because that sounds like that could take people over, and they would say, look, I'm doing this to be healthy. I don't care what you think. I'm healthy. I'm lean. If I have to only eat half a meal and live off 800 calories a day, I'm going to stay healthy that way. Wrong. I mean, they're not going to be healthy that way. But are there difference? I mean, I don't know if you want to dive into this, but eating disorders in general, what does that look like?
You have formal eating disorders. So the big three: anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. Those are the only three that are technically classified as an eating disorder. But then you have orthorexia, which is not found in the DSM, the main psychological manual. But that is definitely a problem because it's really regimented, and it's a form of disordered eating, which often leads to a formal eating disorder. So in my case, I started off as orthorexia. I was super focused on what I ate and nutrition and whatever. And then that eventually turned into chewing and spitting, which also is not a formally classified eating disorder. But then that led to bulimia, which is an eating disorder. From my perspective, it didn't really matter. It was unhealthy behavior, it was maladaptive behavior, and I wanted to stop. So you have eating disorders and then disordered eating is kind of the short answer there.
I've seen, it's called orthorexia. Is that correct?
Right.
I've seen that a lot in health areas where people live so extreme. They won't ever touch an ounce of sugar or a certain, certain type of food. And when I see that, they are in prison, and they may look healthy, but I think mentally and emotionally, they're in prison suffering because they're so regimented. And I just, that's a shame. So let's go here. How long did this last before you started to say, I've got to pull my way out of this? And how was that journey of in this knee deep and working your way through?
I think the first time something occurred to me was when I first started to chew and spit out my food. But even then, it wasn't enough to create change, because what I did was I just tried harder and I said, oh, I won't do it again. And I started playing all these mind games. And so had I taken care of the issue then, so I was like 23 at the time, I wouldn't have spent the next 7-8 years trying to figure it out. Instead, I kept delaying that process because I thought I needed to do this, and I kept choosing another day to make the change. It was a really unhealthy form of procrastination, because I wanted to change, but I didn't. It was just this constant civil war in my head that went on far too long.
Well, and I that's one of the questions I want to dive in a little bit later is getting into this. So you dealt with this for 7 to 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
What was the triggering point that you pulled yourself out of this? And then that created your own program. You teach this and you coach this. What triggered it? How did you get out of this?
There was no epiphany. It's not like I had this, amazing event or something, but I realized that my circumstances were not going to get better. I was not going to have more willpower tomorrow. Like nothing or nobody was going to come into my life and change it for me. Like I had to make that change on my own. So I realized I had all the resources that I needed. I had all of the willpower that I needed. And I realized that I had the ideal circumstances to make the change. There were no more excuses anymore. Not that there ever was an excuse, but it was like, it's now or never. So start making those changes. And I got rid of this idea that recovery would happen in one day, that one day I would just change everything. And then from then on, I would never do it again. I realized that recovery was going to take a little longer than that. It was going to be kind of a bumpy ride. And it was. But when I stopped telling myself that I had to change everything in one day, that it decreased the resistance in my head. Because now I didn't have to change everything at once.
I'm glad you said that about an epiphany, because so many people, they're sitting there dealing health, and I'm always trying to encourage them. And if I can get their mind to change when they snap and say, that's it. It's like you just said, it's now or never. But you realize it's going to be a journey and it's going to be bumpy. Being healthy and being fit and being strong is effort. It's just as much effort to be sick, but you have to choose that path. And I'm glad you said that, because so many listeners are probably saying, oh, I just wish I had a word from God. The sky opens up and it tells me, and my heart changes, my mind changes, and tomorrow I don't eat sugar ever again. And I say, that's not going to happen. That's not reality. Maybe it is for 1 out of 100, but not for the 99%. And I'm glad you shared that, because I think a lot of people can relate. And if you're listening and you're in this, any type of eating disorder, whatever that is, you can say, just start today. Start your journey. So what did that journey look like as you started to take these steps forward? And how long did it take and obviously this is never and I don't know if you agree with this is never you arrive. It's not like you get there and everything's done. You get better and you learn better, but the next day is still a challenge. You just start to develop better habits. So what did you do to actually start moving through this process?
I started making smaller changes instead of changing everything in one day. And so a small change could be like what I call confinement, where you engage in behavior less frequently, and then you limit the foods that you binge on or purge. And so you just kind of, you limit the behavior. So maybe that could be, hey, Sunday, I'm not going to do it. Just on Sunday, I'm not going to do it. For example, or I'm not going to look at my phone the first hour of the day, so that way I'm less compulsive. It's small things like that that really make the difference, but you have to repeat them over and over. And so the second part there was, how long was this process? Months, I guess. The thing is, it's not like recovery starts one day and ends one day. You don't really know. It's not like you say, okay, today's the beginning of my recovery. And it's not like you wake up one day and say, okay, I'm fully recovered now. So when people ask me that, it's like, when did it start? When did it end? I don't know. I have a general idea, but there was no like date. On this date, I started. It's never that clean. It's never that clear cut as most things in life.
Well, I'm glad you share that, because, and I love the small habits. That's great advice. Is you take 1 hour and say, okay, I'm not going to look at my phone until 9 a.m., 10 o'clock, or lunchtime, or one day. That's great advice, because that one day, those things began to empower you. And you saw, okay, I can get one day in. Maybe I can get a second day. I can get one habit in. Yeah. And as you said this, it took months. It takes about not 60 to 90 days to really develop a habit where your physiology changes, where your body's actually doing it easier without thinking, your subconscious. So it takes a little time, but was it a struggle every day when you were getting up trying to develop those habits and continue to build on the habits? How much of a struggle was that?
It's not like every day I had to try really hard, but those behaviors aren't automatic at first. So it's called conscious incompetence. So that you're not competent, right? But the goal is to reach a state where you are unconsciously competent, where you just automatically make the right decisions. So at first I had to be really diligent, had to think about it. It's like learning any new skill.
Right.
So when you've had disordered eating habits for 10 years, it's like you have to learn to eat properly again. And so you have to be really intentional, and then you have to deal with cravings and these other thoughts. And so that's why it's not something that happens overnight. But like I said, eventually you just reach a state where it is just automatic. It's like starting a car, putting on your seatbelt. But when you first learned to drive, that wasn't automatic. You had to think about it.
I heard a speaker years ago explain just what you're saying, and he said it in 4 steps, where the first step was you don't even know you have a problem, and then you know you have a problem, you do it. Let's say you eat the wrong foods, then you realize, crap, I just ate the wrong food. Then the third step is right when you're about to eat it, you realize this is the bad habit I'm trying to break. And the fourth step is what you just said, is you're actually doing it. It's actually becoming a process. And that is a journey. That's not an overnight thing. I work out a lot, and patients always say to me, oh, you love working out. I'm like, I really don't love working out. It hurts. It takes up my time. It's cumbersome. It's painful, but I feel good afterwards. And I have a good life because of it. So I just keep doing it. But it took me, I developed this habit years ago, and it just became ingrained. Let's dive in to your empowered eating system. This is something you developed. You got some really neat points here. Why don't you just tell us an overview of your system, your program, and then we'll dive into some main points here if we can.
So my system it's 3 months, which is about 90 days, because that's usually how long it takes to create these new habits. Sometimes it can be faster, but I like to give people time. And I always start with the habits that you have, and the habits that you want to create, and the habits that you want to eliminate. Like, where are you now, and then where do you want to go? Let's establish that. It's like, what's your vision, and what are your beliefs? That's another thing too. It's like, what do you currently believe that's not serving you? So we start with beliefs because beliefs drive habits, and then habits drive the decisions that we make, which lead to the results that we want. But it all starts with beliefs. And so if your belief is this isn't that bad, which is a belief that I had for many years, then it's going to be really hard to start this recovery process, because you're just going to keep delaying it, procrastinating. Now it's not the best time. So if you have beliefs like that, it's really disabling. So that's where I start. And then from there, we go into, cravings and urges. And then we go into recovery. And then we go into how to create a diet that works for you. And then we go into weight loss. I should say as a disclaimer, I'm not a registered dietitian. So my advice is general. I cannot prescribe like specific diets to people, but I'm just giving people general guidelines to help them make smart decisions. And then after that, so if it's 6 modules, 13 weeks, at that point, they should be pretty consistent. If not, they can work with me longer.
And I think one of the things too, when you go through this yourself and you learn it, you study it, and you live it, then you can be great advice to people. We don't, some of the study that we learn in books is one thing, but when you experience it, when you taste it, and it's blood, sweat, and tears going through this, people can relate to that. It's hard to relate to a book. Can we dive into a couple points here? This is on your module 1, and you don't have to share all your secrets here, so they join your program. But you have on one of your steps how to create a compelling vision, so compelling you keep going even in hard times. I wish we could download that in people's brains. And I struggle with that all the time, trying to get people motivated to work out, to eat right, to just change habits. So I'm always upbeat. I'm always inspirational, trying to lead them and guide them. But can you share a little bit of your expertise there? How do we create a compelling vision to keep getting through the tough times?
You don't need a lot of willpower, and you don't need inspiration. You don't need motivation. I guess that helps. But when your mind wants to say yes, when you really should say no, it's not going to be enough. You can try harder, but I did that for many years and that didn't work. So what you need is something better to replace the habit. And I think a lot of times people get enmeshed in these kind of habits because it's providing instant relief from something, short-term gratification. And to them, that's better than the long-term consequences. Or it's better than what they could have if they didn't complete this habit. It's a calculation error. So what you need is a vision for your health, your body, to replace this habit. There has to be a reason to say no to that instant gratification, because your mind is hardwired for the instant gratification. So what is it that you want in the long term? That's why you need a vision. And if that's like creating a vision board or just writing down your goals each day, whatever. Whatever works for you. I have both. But you need to know what that is. What is it that you really want? Because you can't have everything.
So do you think that you put that vision board up, or you write down a goal every day, whether it's weight loss or looking good or being able to walk a mile with the kids or play at the playground, you see that? Because I agree with you. I have a vision board, and I write my goals, and I look at things every day, every morning. I'm just trying to program. Do you see that as being a kind of a breaker? It breaks when you're going for the donut, or you're going for the food, or you're gonna, eat and chew the food and spit it out. That you realize, what? I see the vision. I see the vision board. I can't go this time. I got to do this. Was that, did you learn that as you were going through your process?
It took me a while. It took me a while to figure out what my identity really was. What is it that I really want? And is this behavior consistent with who I want to be? Is this my identity? Do I really want to be like this the rest of my life? Or do I want to be, lean, fit, fast, good looking? That had to be more important than the habit itself. It had to be more important than that instant gratification. Something had to replace that. And I wish I had just asked that question. Is this consistent? Is this what I really want? Instead, I just kept telling myself, well, I can wait till tomorrow. I can wait till tomorrow. I can wait till tomorrow. Yes, I want it, but not bad enough that I'm willing to say no today. So it was just like I said, a miscalculation that I kept making over and over and over.
So, what you just said there, with seeing that and replacing it, what you really want, I hope people are listening. That's a bomb. If we can get that, and we can keep telling ourselves that and seeing that will start to break habits, and you'll start to create a better habit on top of that. And you said willpower, and I know you've said this in some of your stuff that I've read. Willpower isn't the thing. Why? People are saying, you hear it all the time. And I think it's such an excuse. Oh, I just wish I had willpower like you, Doc. And I'm like, I don't know if I have willpower. I just choose to do things because I don't want to be over there and I don't want to be unhealthy. So I choose better choices than I choose worse choices. I'm not perfect. It's an 80-20, 90-10 for me, but I just keep going. I'm like, I don't know if I have willpower, because if I eat some chocolate or I jump into some M&Ms, I purge on the thing. I'll eat the bag. I'll bite your hand off until I get my sugar flush, and then I feel sick. And then I realize why. So talk a little bit about willpower. I'm curious, and then we'll kind of go through the rest of your program.
So willpower can help you keep going. It doesn't really help when you need to say no. So instead of having willpower, what you need is like won't power, really. But in order to have won't power, you need a vision. Like what is going to take the space of that habit? You need to have something. And it sounds like a pretty simple question. What is it that you want? But if you think about it and you sit down, it's actually kind of hard, because there's trade-offs. Like you can't have everything, okay? You can't have M&Ms all day and then have amazing health. It's like, so make the choice. What do you want? Do you want, a giant meal at night at the end of the day, or do you want to sleep well? Choose. So it's just but that's what life is. It's a constant series of trade-offs, because you can have anything, just not everything. So choose.
Great advice. Let me ask you this. You're stopping from binge eating. You teach this, how to stop anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
What would be a piece of advice there you can share that, because people, I think this all is in one package. This all relates. And before you answer that, the binge eating, go back to, you said it's kind of hard to answer that, what you really want. If you're listening to this, when you get home, if you're in your car or you have some quiet time, best time is quiet time. I do it my morning time because nobody's up. I get up early around 5. So nobody's up. So I can write things out. Take time to write out, what do I really want? And just start writing. And you'll find it's not that easy. It is harder. But as you start to clarify that, you start to see, I really do want this. And then if you can clarify, I really want to be this, fit, be able to exercise, be able to play with the kids, be able to walk up the flight of stairs without huffing and puffing, feeling you're going to have a heart attack. Maybe you need to lose 50 pounds. If you really want that, then you say, okay, what action steps? And that's what Kevin is saying, is that he has a program that starts to work not only with habits, but with your mind. But if you can clarify that, now you have a piece of the puzzle that's very powerful. So let's go with the question with the binge. How do you stop binge eating anytime, anywhere?
Like I said, it starts with those mini habits, right? Start with that. It doesn't even have to be food related. It can just be being a little less impulsive each day, putting your phone on airplane mode, not checking your phone as soon as you get a message. It can be adding one more serving of fruits and vegetables to your diet each day. It can be drinking more water. And then also figuring out, what is it that you want? Where do you want to go? And then where you are now, and just start making incremental steps to get there. And it's not going to happen in one day. You're not going to be this horrible binge eater today, and then tomorrow you're going to be super healthy. I mean, I suppose that's happened. But that's like playing the lottery. I don't think you should play that. Can you just be there? Do you recall the basketball coach, Pat Riley, when he was coaching the Lakers? And I think one season he just wanted his players to be 1% better, and they ended up winning the championship. So it was just that 1% rule. If you just get a little better here, a little better here, a little better here, you can see massive changes over time. But quit waiting to make those changes. Start now. Just make one little change today. That's not that hard, and your brain won't give you a lot of resistance when you do that.
I love it. And I remember hearing that Pat Riley story about the 1%. And that is so powerful. What you just said there, that's a bomb. If we can change 1%, replace a fruit for a candy bar, replace a vegetable or a salad in place of, the cake at the meal, something, that 1%. But that 1% over what you're saying, and I hope you're hearing this, Kevin didn't do this overnight. This is not a lottery game. This is a journey, but the 1% every day adds up to tremendous change. So as we come wrapping this up, I think they're really getting a piece of your information here, and we're going to have everything tagged on our podcast so they can find out about your program, your empowered eating program, that eating system, that they can, reach out to you. But let's kind of end with, how are you keeping this all together? So you go through this for 7-8 years, you struggle, you go through the trials and error, and you create a system that can really probably minimize their mistakes. This is what we all go through. We learn the hard way, and then we come up with a system that can take, a 2-3 year period and narrow it down to 90 days. Who wouldn't want that? So how is it that you are able to do this and continue doing this? Does your program and your coaching keep you accountable as well?
Oh, good question. I feel like I have to live at a higher standard sometimes. So there is kind of that pressure. It's like, because people are looking up to me, right? So I have to live the message. But I don't feel like recovery is this lifelong process that I have to be walking on eggshells all the time. Oh, this could erupt at any time. I don't feel that way. It isn't like, I don't feel like I can lose control at any second. Once you create these habits, they become automatic. And I know what it is that I want, and I don't want to go back to that. So I don't do it, because now I realize how bad it is. Once you've been out of it for a while, it looks different. When you're enmeshed in the habit, you lose perspective and you think, well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But then once you take off and you're in orbit, and then you can see the whole picture, it's like, wow, it really is that bad.
Yeah, you won't see that picture until you're out of it for a while. And once you start to clarify it and see it, then it's like, then that is maybe the epiphany. It's, oh my gosh, wow, I was really into this, which I'm sure empowered you to say, you know what, I need to help others. I need to create this system. And you said, you just don't feel like you're going to erupt and it's just going to, you're going to boom right back into it. Is because the 1% rule. If we do this 1%, like you said, you created habits over and over, and you just started laying the groundwork. And then those 1% became 10%, 15%, 20%. Then all of a sudden you have a solid foundation. And I've always told people that if you can build your foundation, and your foundation strong with good, solid habits, not these crazy lifestyle habits, not these wild diets, and I'm going to exercise for an hour. People say, well, I'm just going to exercise for 2 hours a day. Like, you need about 8 minutes if you just want to be healthy. You can't sustain 2 hours. This is insane. So we see a lot of diets and a lot of programs out there just unsustainable. And I'm sure you would agree that just there's radical things out there, and people saying, you know what, you can look amazing in 10 days and 30 days, and unrealistic. But you're given sound advice, and it starts with a mind shift, to change habits. Those habits start to form, and the lifestyle starts to change. And what Kevin was saying too is, once he got there, he has a solid foundation that it's just not going to slip and go way back unless he decides he's going to start creating bad habits again and he's going to work his way back out. But he sees the big picture, and you probably feel so good right now that you never want to go back that way. So, how, as we kind of end here, what would you like to just say to the listeners, maybe about your program, what you coach, what you do to inspire them?
Make one small change today. It doesn't even have to be your diet. Just do something, I say impatient patient. So be impatient starting the process, but then be patient with the process. In other words, don't wait to complete everything. It's like if you have a term paper and it's 10 pages, why don't you just start by writing a paragraph today? Get some momentum. Don't wait until the day before it's due and write 10 pages. So that's what I mean, impatient patient. But like I said, my program is 13 weeks and 6 modules. And my goal for them by the end is that they're eating right consistently.
Awesome. I love it. And let's end with a couple quick questions here. What was one thing that you never expected along this journey?
I never expected that I would be teaching others how to solve it. Because there was a time when I didn't want to do this. I thought, I could help people with this problem. But then I would have to tell my story, and I just wanted to get on with it for a while. And so I actually pursued different avenues before I decided, no, I'm gonna teach others how to correct this problem. And the other thing too, I didn't expect it to last that long. I didn't expect it to last 10 years. That wasn't my plan for the 20s. But that's what happened. And maybe if I had recovered it when I was 23 or 24, I wouldn't be coaching this today. So I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for it.
Yeah, I think there's always a reason. Sometimes we'll never know, but it happens. We can't look back in the past. We can't change it, but you're doing something about your future and empowering others, because we're in a state of health. When I look at the state of just Pittsburgh, where I'm from, our podcast is Making Pittsburgh Healthy. Obviously, we want to make the world healthy, whoever's listening, but we are in a bad state of health. We, with heart disease and cancer, especially in Pittsburgh, we have higher rates of heart disease and cancer than most cities. Obesity is probably right up there with everyone else, and we're just in a bad state. And I give a shout out to you, because anyone that's doing this, like, we're on the same team trying to work to empower health. When we empower health, we're going to better this world, and I love it. So, any crazy fun plans in the future? You'd like to do anything wild?
Crazy fun plans? Well, I have plenty of travel plans. Obviously, I've had to postpone those for a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, I could coach people anywhere, so we'll just see where life goes for now.
Cool. Ride the wave, man. All right. Any last statement before we send off?
Start today.
Love it. Start today. Well, Kevin, I appreciate you being on the show. I'm sure this is going to make a difference. All your links are going to be on. So, folks, if you want to find out more about Kevin's program, just go to the show notes, click his information, check it out. He's a great guy. He's doing great things out there in Modesto, California, and another part of the world, being over here in Pittsburgh. But thanks for being on the show and doing all you're doing for health.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in another amazing episode to make Pittsburgh the healthiest city in America, or wherever you live. Let's join together and make this world healthier for generations to come.